Coming in at number 10, we have the ghosts of Bally's Casino and the MGM fire. What is now Bally's Las Vegas used to be the MGM Grand when fire tore through the building in November 1980. Now, the incident today is the second worst disaster in Nevada history and the third worst hotel fire in modern US history. During the time of the fire, there were 5,000 people in the hotel and no sprinklers in place across a large part of the building. The fire started in the deli restaurant and tore through the second floor. 85 people died, the majority from smoke inhalation. 588 civilians, 25 employees, and 14 firefighters were injured. The hotel was brought up by Caesars Entertainment Corporation and turned into Bally's in 1986. Now, people that stayed at the hotel are convinced that they hear screaming or see ghostly apparitions walking through walls. Some employees have even reported seeing a group of ghosts who hang around together, which is kind of sweet. Coming in at number 9, Stephen Paddock was in a cult, or so local rumor has it. We can all agree that Stephen Paddock, the Las Vegas shooter, was a disturbed individual. However, some people are saying that he was part of a satanic cult. On October 1st, 2017, Stephen Paddock broke a window in his 32nd floor room at the Mandalay Bay Hotel and fired on a crowd enjoying Route 91 Harvest Music Festival. Using a semi-automatic rifle, he fired 1,100 rounds, killing 58 people and injuring a further 851. Now, according to a number of news publications, including the National Enquirer, Paddock was a prime target for a cult, which encouraged him to carry out the murdering spree. Dr. George Simon, a psychologist and author, said that Paddock's flaws, including his drinking and his gambling, made him easy pickings for a cult leader who was able to encourage him to do his bidding. Coming in at number 8, we have the classic rotting corpse under bed story. This is a very popular urban legend, appropriated to many hotels in local folklores all over the country, and indeed actually all over the world. It seems though that the original story can be traced back to Sin City itself. Basically, the story goes that a person checks into a hotel, kind of a budget hotel, so they can save their cash for gambling. They check in, pop their bags down, and they have a rest. They even notice a faint smell, but they don't think anything of it. They go out for dinner, come back ready for bed, and the smell is even a bit worse. They're really tired and there's no one at the front desk, so they have to suck it up and go to bed. They wake up in the middle of the night and the stench this time is so bad, like really bad. They turn on the lights and check to find the source of the stink. They look everywhere, especially around the bed, as that is where it seems the strongest. Eventually, they decided to lift up the bed, and lo and behold, there is a festering corpse under there. That is around the time the knocking at the door starts. Freaked out, they climb out of their bedroom window, get into their car, leaving their stuff behind, and they hot-foot it out of there. Coming in at number 7, we have the ghosts of Circus Circus. I just went to Vegas over Christmas, and I went into Circus Circus because of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I love that scene, when they're on the carousel and they can't get off. It's a classic. Well, apparently that moving bar on the merry-go-round isn't there anymore, which is really sad. Also not there anymore is room 123. Well, actually the room still exists, it just has a different number, making it impossible to tell which room this homicide happened in. Oh yeah, homicide. A woman shot her son and then herself. Now, before the room was renovated, people would see the faint words "help me" written on the bathroom mirror. Cries for help can still be heard in the poker rooms, which are rumored to have been nearby. Some also claim that rooms 230 and 576 are haunted. Coming into number 6, we have the 4th grader ghost at Edwards Elementary School. Can you even imagine being brought up in Vegas? I feel like that would be absolutely insane. Like, what kind of human would you turn out to be? If you're brought up in Vegas, holler at me. Edwards Elementary School is located to the east of the city and has one student who has been in attendance for nearly 30 years. Students in grade 4 and teachers of the 4th grade have reported seeing a young girl dressed in white. She's often spotted in the computer room and in room 26, her old classroom. It seems that the young girl is a deceased student who once attended the school but died in 1990 when she was in the 4th grade. This is seemingly why only teachers of the 4th grade and 4th grade students can see her, but no other years can. We have another Vegas school haunting up next. This time we have a middle school. That's right, we have the janitor of Del H. Robinson. This is a very strange tale indeed and seems to affect only students who have moved to the school from outside of Nevada. Again, just east of the city, it's Del H. Robinson Junior High. It's not too far from Edwards Elementary, so this actually means in theory a person could have been to both haunted schools if they were unlucky. Or they just loved ghosts. The ghost at Del H is nothing like the benevolent child at Edwards though. The ghost here is of a janitor who's seen walking the halls with bloody hands. Again, seemingly only kids from out of state experience this ghostly apparition, which is so strange. Some new arrivals also report seeing him in their dreams after enrolling at the school. Stranger still, according to local legend, he disappears from sight and mind as soon as the pupils start going to church. Right, sure. Is it a big ploy? Coming into number 4, we have La Palazza Mansion Demonic Hauntings. La Palazza Mansion is located at 1700 Banny Avenue in Las Vegas, just up north from the main strip. Despite being prime real estate, the house has laid empty for a number of years. The property was purportedly owned by mobsters. Now these days the mansion is said to be not just a little haunted, but very haunted. The previous owner thought that he had bought his dream home but was freaked out when bad things started happening there. In the end, he decided to challenge the poltergeist, demanding it leave. Now things didn't go well. The man was then nearly choked to death as an invisible entity grabbed him by the neck. His friends managed to pull him away. Now it seems the mobster former tenants had some unfinished business left in the house. The house was featured on Ghost Adventures in 2010. Also, I found a website where members of the public can leave comments, and a number of people living in the area said that they visited the house either as a potential buyer or just a trespasser who'd heard the urban legends. Now all agree that the house felt very, very odd and very cold despite the 100-degree weather outside. Coming in at number 3, could UFOs be bopping on over from Area 51 to the outskirts of Vegas? Find out more at number 3. So Joshua Warren, a paranormal investigator, claims that there is a time warp outside of Las Vegas. Warren said that the warp occurs between the I-15 and Route 93. He measured this with a differential time rate meter, a device used by UFO experts that detects bends in the time-space continuum. That's basically bends in the laws of physics that we know our Earth usually observes. Now the discrepancy in time measurement has led to paranormalists suggesting that there is a wormhole or black hole in the area, so, watch out. And also with Area 51 just basically up the road, who even knows what's really going on? Coming into number 2, we have the bodies of the Hoover Dam. Apparently these bodies are encased in cement, which is terrifying. I visited the Hoover Dam on my way to Vegas over Christmas. Now the Hoover Dam sits on the Colorado River and divides Arizona and Nevada. Crossing this river is pretty much the gateway to Vegas, and the water from the dam provides millions of Americans with clean water, especially those living in Las Vegas. Nonetheless, the dam has a dark history and is often referred to as the Hoover Damned or the Tomb of the Damned. Built in the Depression era of the United States, the official number of people who died whilst building the dam is 96, although many more were thought to have perished. That's the fact, but the urban legend says that the majority of these people are encased in the concrete walls of the dam itself. Supposedly, the mixer couldn't stop pouring concrete as it would mean a structural issue with the end result. So basically, bodies were just covered up over and over to make part of the vast wall today. This is probably just an urban legend, but a lot of people did sacrifice their lives for the structure. Some even say their lost souls can be seen walking across the bridge between states at night. Finally, coming into number 1, I love me a good spooky curse. We have the much famed Egyptian curse of the Luxor Hotel. Never mess with the ancient Egyptians. The Luxor Hotel is an Egyptian-themed hotel on the Vegas Strip, but it seems like the old gods aren't that on board with it. The Luxor has had a very consistently high death rate over the years since it opened in 1993, as well as a string of misfortune that's followed. Some say 7 people died whilst building the vast hotel, and some of them were seen in boats on the replica River Nile that meandered through the lobby. It's recently been filled in. In 1996, a woman jumped from the 26th floor of the building and now is said to haunt that floor. Now another man died when he drunkenly fell from the 10th floor into the lobby. A hand bomb went off in the parking garage in 2007, killing an employee. In 2010, a UNLV football player dropped dead following a fight. In 2012, a casino employee was murdered by her boyfriend in the lobby. Again, 2012 was a bad year for the hotel's rep as 3 guests caught Legionnaires Meniere's disease, with further cases reported in 2017. One of the guests even died as a result. All in all, it is rumoured that this hotel is cursed. Why? Well, they didn't appease the old gods when building the site, especially in the placement of the Sphinx, which is facing east rather than west. Also, when they built the pyramid, they didn't put an eye on the top. Now, this apparently is mandatory in all pyramid buildings. Coming in at number 10, we have the kidney thieves. This is a classic urban legend. This old chestnut isn't specific to just Vegas, although it does seem like the perfect place for it to happen. The Vegas arm of this legend became pretty popular from the early 90s and continues to this day. The story goes that a tourist will go out for a night on the Strip. I can confirm that this is the done thing. Vegas has so many drinks deals, it's hard not to get rip-roaringly drunk and lose all of your friends. In this legend, a tourist gets their drink spiked, loses their friends, wakes up in a hotel bath full of ice with one of their kidneys removed. There's a phone next to the bath and a note that says call 911 or you'll die. That's right, organ trafficking ahoy. Whether or not this has actually ever taken place in Vegas is irrelevant. This story is widely circulated in Nevada and beyond. Coming in at number 9, we have the fake Roy. This one is pretty weird. So Siegfried and Roy were beloved German performers who emigrated to the United States. The pair made their name with a tiger show in Las Vegas in the 1980s. They were on and off the Strip for 20 years, notably performing stints at the New Frontier Hotel and Casino at the Mirage. Sadly, in 2003, Roy Horn was savaged by a 7-year-old tiger and he was rushed to hospital. He survived, but the show closed, never to reopen again in Vegas. Anyway, it seems like a strange urban legend was circulating that actually Roy had already been dead years before the attack and was replaced by a new actor. The story goes that he was actually killed by a tiger in training, but Siegfried, the marketing team, and the Vegas powers that be didn't want the show to be over as it would mean losing them a lot of money. So instead of closing, they found someone else to be Roy. They couldn't sweep the 2003 attack under the carpet as it happened on stage in full view of the public. Coming into number 8, we have Hunting for Bambi. In the past, Las Vegas hasn't necessarily been a great place for supporting women. Historically, although not exclusively, Vegas has been a place for all vices, which includes businessmen or otherwise searching to indulge in women, be it scantily clad on stage or prostitutes. Honestly, a bit gross in my opinion, but it definitely happens, and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, or so they say. Anyway, there's a legend out there that big companies would offer hunting for Bambi trips where men would go out with paintballs and hunt half-naked women and then capture them for their own uses. Now this turned out to be a hoax, but it was widely circulated. Coming into number 7, we have the haunted tiki mask. We heard all about the cursed Luxor Hotel in part 1, which seemed to have attracted some Egyptian bad juju, but in this list we have the haunted tiki mask of the Tropicana Hotel. The hotel has a Polynesian vibe about it, and on the way in, it's lucky to touch the god of money carving before entering the casino. However, you must never touch the tiki mask. The mask is a hand-carved traditional tiki mask, but the rumors say that it's haunted. Very haunted. A lot of tourists have had their picture next to it, but apparently when touching it, or even touching something that's touched it, it could lead you to developing a worrying purple rash. Some have even said that a purple mist distorts the mask in photos taken of it. Coming into number 6, we have Liberace's ghost. Okay, ghosts are scary and everything, so I guess this is why I've put this on this list, but honestly, I have to say Liberace is my saspiration. I love the way he used to dress. Honestly, what an icon. Liberace loved Las Vegas. He owned a restaurant there, and there used to be a museum of the flamboyant pianist. It is said that Liberace haunts a number of spots in Vegas. Tivoli Gardens, his former home, and when the museum was action, there as well. Honestly, good on him. I hope he haunts in floral and gold and continues to be an absolute queen. Next up, we have more famous ghosts. We've got Tupac's ghost. In 1996, Tupac Shakur was gunned down in Vegas between the Flamingo and Koval. He was in a car driven by Suge Knight, and the assassination came as the men stopped at a red light. Now, Tupac's killer is still unknown to this day, and it has gone down as one of the most dramatic moments in modern music history. Paranormalists often say that ghosts are created in dramatic circumstances, and dramatic circumstances were certainly present on that night in 1996. A lot of people say that they think Tupac haunts the intersection. Some even swear to have seen him standing there looking over the road, but then again, some people think he's still alive, so... Ooh, okay, I went to this place and I have to say it was pretty rundown and creepy. Next up, we have Whiskey Pete's. So Whiskey Pete's is an old resort on the outskirts of Vegas named after a gas station owner whose body was accidentally dug up when they built the resort. Now, all I know from these lists is that you absolutely don't want to disturb the dead. Also in that resort is the bullet-ridden car that Bonnie and Clyde were killed in. Right. Anyway, the 1970s casino is said to be haunted by good old Whiskey Pete himself. Some also even say that the haunting screams of Bonnie and Clyde can be heard on occasion coming from the car wreck. All in all, it's a really weird place. I stopped for gas there on my way to LA. I had a sub. It was all really strange. Next up, we have the Haunted Titanic exhibition. Why there is a Titanic artifact exhibition in the middle of the desert thousands of miles away from where the ship sank? We don't know. We don't ask questions. If you can eat fresh seafood in Vegas, then I guess anything is possible, right? So we talked about the Luxor Hotel in part 1 and how it may have befallen an Egyptian curse of some kind, akin to the curse of the pharaohs. Not good. It seems that the hotel may also be haunted by a few of the Titanic's victims for good measure. It seems that on the Grand Staircase exhibition, a lady wearing a black period dress with a white collar has been constantly spotted, as has a sailor on a reconstruction of the promenade deck. Staff and visitors alike have felt hands push and shove them as they walk the exhibition, which honestly is really strange. Coming into number 2, we have Bonnie Springs Ranch. The ghost town of Bonnie Springs is in Red Rock Canyon, just outside of Las Vegas, and it has been featured on the TV show Ghost Adventures. The old Nevada town was very much part of the Wild West in the 1800s. Some people say that they hear children's laughter echo on the spot of the old school. Some say they've seen waxwork models of old townsfolk wink at them as they walk by. The most haunted spot in the ghost town is said to be the Opera House, which is a hotbed for paranormal activity. You can visit the town as a tourist attraction, and they absolutely love the ghostly legends. They go hell for leather in October for Halloween activities, decking out the whole town in ye olde spooks. Finally, coming into number 1, we have the Stratosphere. The Stratosphere is known as the go-to place for suicides in Las Vegas, which already has the highest suicide rates in the country. Honestly, how sad is that? I suppose people go to Vegas, lose it all, and then are filled with deep regret, and I guess all of the vice and drinking doesn't help the mental state either. It's also mainly men who end their lives that way too, which is super sad. Kinda grotesquely, there are ghost tours that will take you in and around the death spots in the city and point them out. Now this also includes the Stratosphere Tower. This has led a lot of people to imagine that they can see people jumping when they look at the building. Is it haunted, or are imaginations simply running wild?
At number 10, the Dead Book Box. Now, do you remember that the 2012 movie The Possession was based on a true story? Well, that story was based on a Dead Book box. Now that specific box that the movie was based on is one that now Zach Bagans has at his haunted museum. And this box is actually a wine cabinet that is allegedly haunted by a Dead Book. And now, a debug is Yiddish for a malicious possessing spirit that people believe to be a dislocated soul of a dead person. And so it becomes trapped in an object, like this wine box, until a person helps release the spirit. Now in Bagans' box, it's believed the restless spirit can possess the living, and that's why Zach Bagans is keeping the cabinet closed, because he's a little bit scared of it himself, I would think. Now, the box was originally posted on eBay for sale by a man named Kevin Manis, who was having a ton of trouble with it. Anytime he gave it as a gift to someone, they experienced strange issues and its darkness, and it passed through the hands of others afterwards, as they would each have their own unnerving experiences with the box. At Zach Bagans' museum, if you want to see the box, you must insist to see it and be 18 years of age or older and sign a liability waiver, because they're not joking around. Now, not all exhibits at the museum stay open all the time. At number 9, we have the Devil's Rocking Chair. Bagans acquired a rocking chair that was owned by the family whose stories are probably what inspired The Conjuring 3. Now, this was the Devil Made Me Do It case in the early 80s. During stories talking about David Glatzel's possession, Ed and Lorraine Warren said the rocking chair would rock on its own, levitate, and even vanish and reappear. Now, David and Lorraine also claimed to have seen the devil sitting in it, so take that as you will. Now, with all this spooky stuff in mind, Zach Bagans was just sold. He was like, I need this chair. This is, of course, though, a thing that happened on the opening night of the Devil Chair exhibit, where he was like, look at this cool chair. 5 people bawled uncontrollably and 1 woman collapsed. So, according to TMZ, just a few hours after Bagan opened the exhibit, he shut down the exhibit. But then, a couple weeks later, opened it back up, less issues. But that opening night started with a bang. But on to number 8, Jack's Fan. Now another thing Bagans has is Dr. Jack Kevorkian's assisted suicide van. Nicknamed Dr. Death, Kevorkian helped over 100 people with terminal illnesses end their lives during the 90s. He did his time for prison for 8 years under charges of second-degree murder and died in 2011 at the age of 83. Now, there is obviously a wide contrast in views on what took place in this van. Some see what the doctor did as monstrous and pin him as a murderer, while others paint him as an activist who wanted to make sure those who wanted to pass did so painlessly and on their own terms. Either way, heightened emotions can come to those who see the van, and fear may be one of them, and that might be one reason that Zach Bagans was like, I want this in my haunted museum. So let's go on to number 7. Another thing there, Bela Lugosi's mirror. Now this mirror has many stories attached to it, especially since its namesake comes from its connection to Bela Lugosi. And now, if that isn't ringing any bells, he is most well known for playing Dracula in the 1931 film, so quite a ways back. Now, guides of the tour at the museum say that Lugosi would use the mirror as a medium for scrying and trying to talk to his dead wife, but the truth is the only confirmed connection is that it was originally said to have once been in Bela Lugosi's house, plus none of his 5 wives died while he was married to them, and there is no documentation of him participating in the occult, but the mirror has seen some things. It was in the room when Frank Salitre was mysteriously murdered, a crime that still has not been solved. He was found bound up in the master bedroom with a single gunshot in the back of his head. So maybe those who let their minds wander while looking into this mirror fall ill when they project those ideas onto the mirror, or maybe the mirror itself has the capacity to haunt and curse those who look into it. Now, people say they've seen entities reach out to them through the mirror or have the sensation of having their necks bitten while looking into it, but nothing has been confirmed. On to number 6, John Morell's preserved thumb. And now, I don't know exactly what Zach Bagans is saying about this thumb, but it's not John Morell's. Now, he's probably basing his information off an incredulous book written by Virgil Stewart, and the backstory is, John Morell in this book is said to be an occult leader and the head of the Mystic Clan that's purpose was to steal slaves to plan an overthrowing of authority. But this book was written by Virgil Stewart, who wrote it in an attempt to get more clout after capturing John Morell, who was likely just a horse thief and a slave stealer. Now, Stewart just kind of blew the situation completely out of proportion to try to get more street cred. So while the thumb is real and a real thumb, it's not Morell's, who probably died in prison and was buried with all of his thumbs on him. And now, that's not to say what it stands for isn't scary. People in Mississippi read the book and believed in it, believed in what Stewart was saying. In Tennessee, they knew the truth because they knew Stewart and he was just fabricating things. But in Mississippi, ooh, Nelly, they were suspicious of one another so much. The summer of 1835, people in Mississippi were killing one another and their innocent slaves on the off chance any of them was part of this Mystic Clan, which is a clan that didn't exist. So now you know the harm in falsifying stories, you can see how this little thumb is a creepy bugger and a symbolism of something bigger than it is. So, worth it in a way to have at the museum. Now, another scary thing at number 5, a cauldron previously owned by Ed Gein. Zach Bagans bought this cauldron at an auction and apparently it was found in a shed on the Old Gein property. And if you need a refresher on who Old Gein was, he was a grave robber and murderer that would experiment on human bodies, making masks of human skin to wear around the house, and he used skulls as soup bowls. So no, I'm not kidding. This was his cauldron, and okay, what's the big deal, right? It's a cauldron. Well, it turns out, according to the person who auctioned off this item, Ed Gein stored body parts and blood in this cauldron in his shed. Now, obviously as a collector of the horrendous and haunting, Bagans decided he needed it and now it's on display. Now one thing is for sure, that cauldron would make some killer soup. At number 4, Charles Manson's portraits. Another thing in this haunted museum is a portrait of Charles Manson. And now the portrait isn't just haunting due to it being of a mass murderer and cult leader. No, it's haunting because when you look into the eyes of this image, you are looking at Charles Manson. Well, in a way, you're looking at his ashes. The artist of the portrait, Ryan Almighty, used parts of Charles Manson's ashes for the eyes of this piece. And even wilder, Almighty achieved the reddish-brown hues of the piece by using his own blood as the pigment. So this piece really is a little piece of the artist and his muse. Creepy. Now, let's go to number 3, Demon House Staircase. So you may think a staircase doesn't have much inherent scary ideas attached to it, and you're not wrong, but this staircase was a part of a whirlwind scary experience. LaToya Ammons and her 3 children allegedly underwent demonic possession in the house the stairs originated from. While living there while renting, Ammons and her children experienced possession and terrifying experiences like walking up walls, floating over a bed, and feeling choked. So very haunting experiences. And all this escalated to the point that the Catholic Church backed up a priest who performed 3 exorcisms on Ammons. And then the family relocated for their own safety with the help of Department of Child Services, and Zach Bagans then bought the house. He was interested with the reported demonic possessions and stories and explored the house until he demolished it, thinking, better done with it. He only kept a staircase and a little bit of carpet that's sealed off in a room in his museum that's voluntary for visitors to see, and even voluntary for staff to see because of the entities associated with it. Which is very nice for the staff members. It's like, it's so spooky. It's okay, you don't have to see it. I appreciate that. But now on to number 2, a Chris Farley Polaroid. At Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum, he has this celebrity deaths room, which first of all, I think it's really weird for people to fixate on the death of someone they don't know, and I think this item I'm going to talk about is disrespectful. In the celebrity death room, there is a Polaroid of Chris Farley after his overdose that killed him. It was acquired from a police officer that was at the scene. Since I cannot and will not show that photo, just know that it was a photo of his dead body after a drug overdose that visitors have described as sickening, disgusting, shocking, and horrifying. Now, using the image of a dead person, a real person, as a gimmick is in poor taste and shows a lack of empathy on Bagans' behalf, and that scares me, so that's included on this list. On to number 1, Peggy the doll in Peggy's room. Now this one has a past. Let's talk about this doll before it got to the museum. Peggy was sent to a British paranormal investigator named Jane Harris after Peggy's previous owner was having some nightmares where the doll would haunt her dreams. That owner would wake up hot and shaken with fevers and hallucinations, and even her local priest couldn't help her out. She eventually figured it was because of Peggy the doll and sent her off to Harris. Once Jane Harris and her team had the doll, they tried to figure out what was up, and they say that Peggy is possessed by the spirit of a woman from London, born in 1946 and died of some sort of chest condition, which is very specific. Wow. Yes, that's the history, but how does Peggy haunt? Well, apparently through dreams, pushing people away from entering her room in the haunted museum, or even light bulbs going out when people mention Peggy's name. Now, people are warned not to look her in the eye because they could feel chest pains, nausea to the point of vomiting, or really bad headaches. And now this could be the spirit within the doll circumventing some of her own pain, or many coincidences lined up together. But either way, many say the scariest thing they saw on their trip to Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum was Peggy.